Let's get to know the shortest evil alien that Ben 10 ever obtained, or in other words, the one who possessed Ben. We've seen this happen in Ben 10 Classic as well as in Ben 10 Reboot. So without further delay, let's begin. In the deep space, at the far reaches of the universe, there is the planet Anur Transil. But what matters to us today is the species Ectonurite, the one-eyed ghosts capable of invisibility and possessing other beings. Today, we'll talk about the leader of that species and its most powerful member, Zscaer, Ghost Freak. His story began when Asmuth and his assistants were collecting DNA samples to put inside the Omnitrix. By coincidence, a sample from the ectonurite species was inserted, specifically that of Zscaer himself, leaving his DNA inside the Omnitrix. When Ben transformed into the alien Ghost Freak, it turned out that Ghost Freak was actually the one controlling Ben, not the other way around. When Ben's time ran out, he found himself facing an evil version of Ghost Freak. That's when he discovered that half of the ectonurite's DNA had separated from the Omnitrix. In truth, that half was Zscaer himself, who wanted the Omnitrix to regain the rest of his DNA stored inside the watch. However, Ben realized he could defeat him with light, and Zscaer vanished. Later, Zscaer returned and possessed Gwen, forcing Ben to fight him inside the clock tower. But once again, Zscaer was defeated by light and disappeared for a second time. The strange thing about him, however, is that he can regenerate his body from just a single surviving cell. As long as one cell remains, Zscaer can return. But this villain never gave up. He eventually allied himself with Dr. Victor and the Mummy to plunge Earth into eternal darkness, turning all humans into ectonurites by blocking sunlight using satellites. And indeed, they succeeded. But when Zscaer was exposed to the sun in space, he was destroyed again. After that, the plumbers imprisoned Zscaer in a space prison near the sun, guarded by robots. But Vilgax intervened, freeing Zscaer in exchange for help against Ben. However, Zscaer betrayed him and turned Vilgax's entire race into ectonurites. Vilgax then sought Ben's help, and together they defeated Zscaer and saved his people. Still, Zscaer did not stop trying to reclaim the Omnitrix to restore his full form. He even resurrected another villain called Lord Transil, but Ben transformed into Atomix and created a miniature sun, defeating them all. Zscaer was completely destroyed and vanished. We didn't see him again until the reboot, where Zscaer returned united with other villains. They captured Ben, and Zscaer tried to enter the Omnitrix. But he was electrocuted, and it's certain that at that moment the Omnitrix absorbed his DNA. That means Ben can now transform into him, since later Grandpa Max mentioned that Vilgax told them the Omnitrix can absorb DNA, just like it did with Zscaer. That's why they should avoid getting too close, or else their DNA could be absorbed too. So what do you think, friends? Can Ben now transform into Zscaer? Let's now move on to the next evil alien that Ben obtained in Ben 10 Reboot Gax. Ben obtained half the DNA of the evil alien Vilgax and then transformed into Gax, who Asmuth had previously imprisoned inside the Omnitrix. Ben began transforming into him frequently, and we saw his destructive powers cause the Omnitrix to malfunction, making Ben transform into random aliens, until eventually, Vilgax extracted that DNA from the Omnitrix, and then the watch returned to normal. So, who do you think is more evil, Gax or Zscaer? Write your opinion in the comments.